every now and then just looks up at us with this kind of longing look, as if to say, I'm so tired and so hot, I don't want to be awake anymore. Octo, you're asking, is there any difference between subadult and teenage lions? Well, subadult is basically referring to teenage lions. You don't refer to lions as teenagers, you refer to them as cubs, subadults, and adults. It's different to humans. There's no teenager word that's generally used with cats. It's, like I say, cubs, subadult, and adults that you use to describe their sort of phases of life, if you want to call it that. There's Amber is just putting her head down, young female in front with her watching her cubs moving around. Who have you seen? Maybe another member of the pride is slowly ambling in as well, because she's watching very carefully. I don't see any sign of the cubs coming up the hill. They seem as though they're still down, so maybe, like I say, there's another female that's slowly on her way this side. But what I think is that the other two females might be with the Birmingham boys, given that the Birmingham boys were making such a racket here at the lodge, and the Nkuhuma Pride is so close, that I think they might be with those two. And hopefully the female with the injury, is wherever she is having a nice rest and is not moving around too much and just giving herself a chance. And hopefully she also got some of that meal and was able to actually get some nutrition in that's going to help with her fighting any infections. They are looking beautiful. It's going to be another hot day, so they found themselves the perfect place to rest. I'm sure this afternoon they'll still be here. I'm sure the cubs will still be out and about with them. It's going to be very special to spend time with them. There we go. Mom, are you happy with your cubs? Izzy, you're asking the male from these subadults, could it become a coalition member if some of the tiny cubs are males? Yes, it's possible. It is a year difference, but it is possible. If you look at the Mapogos, the Majingalans, even the Birminghams, there was quite a big gap between some of them, and a year is not that far. Remember that these subadults generally are only going to be pushed out at 3.5 years old as males. So if they're 3.5, then the ones in the smaller grouping will be 2.5 and fully capable of looking after themselves and will be able to leave with the older male. So yes, they can still form a coalition member. The time frame is not too bad. If it was 2 years between them, then probably not. Then you would find a situation where the cubs would be a little bit too young to form a coalition with that older one. It would probably be pushed out before they were ready to leave mom. But in this situation, with only sort of a year between them, you'll find that these cubs should theoretically be able to stay as coalition members. And this male must hope that there is males in those cubs there that survives, because it's going to be a rough life if he's on his own and doesn't have any coalition members. It's really not easy to be a lion by yourself out here in amongst all of these big coalitions. So if he can get a partner, or at least 2 brothers, that will help him and drastically improve his chances of surviving and becoming a territorial male later in life. So it seems as though our little cubs have gone into a thicket where they're resting. The rest of the pride is starting to fall asleep now as well. Nobody's really looking too active just yet. So we're going to sit a little bit longer, see what happens. And while we do that, let's go to Tayla with a pig in a blanket.
We've got a little surprise in the ground for all of you this morning. I can smell that there's been a warthog in the area. I'm just joking. I cannot smell if there's a warthog here, but I did watch a warthog run into its burrow. I don't know, it must have gotten a fright because of us. But we were just driving along. I was telling Darby stories about getting stuck with lions, in lion sightings, in mud and on termite mounds and all these types of things. And we were just driving very, very slowly, and the next minute he just didn't like us and he ran from the other side of the road. It was quite funny, actually. I've never seen this before, so I was trying to always work out how does a warthog go into its burrow quickly. So he ran at a great speed. He hit brakes when he got in line with the tunnel, but he slid. It was amazing. So he was running like this. He basically slid so that his bum was at the entrance of the hole, and all he did was then go, he reversed back. The shuffle straight back into the warthog burrow, and now he's hiding in there. So that was really incredible to see that. So now I can actually explain to people how fast a warthog can actually enter a burrow. And it was really amazing to see, and I'm so sad I didn't get to share it with you. But it happened within the blink of an eye. I don't think he's going to come out. I think he might be actually terrified. So let's leave him. Sorry that I petrified you, warthog, but it was a great learning experience. You know, sometimes you have to do these things. So we're actually bumbling about at the moment. We're trying to find cats, and then David had suggested that why don't we go past where a little governor's is. Now I've got too much saliva in my mouth. And I've never driven on that side. Still part of the Mara Triangle. It's just sort of more to the northeast. So we'll head there, have a little squiz around, see if there's anything maybe unusual. I'm still searching for my black-headed heron that I was telling you about the other day, and how I said we have to sit with one and watch it catch a snake or a mouse. So those are the plans. But ideally we want to find some cats, and it's never a bad idea to check along these rivered areas. Obviously there's plenty of game. You've seen the amount of warthogs around here. There's buffalo, there's zebra. The zebra will have little ones. You often see the Thompson's gazelle here. Coke's hartebeest I've seen around here too. And then of course, well, you get the olive baboons that would live in the trees around the forest, and leopards would like to eat those things. Now, Prince Pal, question from you, wondering if we carry guns for our safety. Just these bad boys. I just thought of Byron, and when that question came through, which is why I started giggling, and then I thought that's probably something Byron would say. So, no, on a serious note, during the park hours, so between 6:30 and 6:30 in the morning and the evening, we don't need to. There's a lot of people around. At night we have Askaris join us, because remember, we're the only ones that are allowed to be out in the park after closing time, which is, we're very privileged, of course, to be able to. So we have an Askari come through, and he is equipped with a rifle of varying sorts. But I think you're fairly safe out here. You're in the middle of nowhere, but of course you can't be too sure. And also, well, the fact that we're sleeping out in the bush, I think it's important to have some form of protection, because you never know what could happen with the pride lions or group of hyena. But again, we're safe, and we take caution and all these types of things. You don't really have to worry about us. We'll be fine. Alright, so we need to go through this boom. We're going to do a little security check over here, which is quite good, so constantly looking around. So we're going to send you to Tristan now in Sabi Sand of South Africa, my home that I miss very much, and he is sitting with the Nkuhumas.
We are, and Tayla, I think Djuma misses you too. It's definitely quieter around camp over the last little bit, so it'll be nice when you get back in November time. It will be very good. Oh, bless you. A little bit of dust in the nose. Back to sleep again. But it's all very sedate now. The little cubs are not moving around at all at the bottom. They are quite quiet now. I can't hear the leaf litter rustling anymore, so I think they found a little place to nap. Like I said, it is getting warm now, so I would imagine all of them are starting to try and find some way to sleep. Interestingly though, the lionesses are all lying in a funny way. None of them are lying like you would expect them to lie when they're going to pass out for the day, which is on their sides. All of them have got their heads over their paws and sleeping a little bit more uncomfortably. This one here is about to lose its pillow by the looks of things. Yeah, the other one was moving. Sunday, fortunately, or unfortunately, either way, I haven't seen a lioness with a mane in the Kruger Park. It's something that is very uncommon, and in fact, as far as I know, it's only rarely been documented properly in Botswana. I don't think there's been any other documented cases in South Africa. I might be wrong, but I've not heard of it in South Africa, and I most certainly haven't seen it. It's a very odd phenomenon to see a lioness with a big mane. It's very weird. It doesn't seem quite that right. I don't know. It's an odd thing to see. Not sure if I would be able to kind of recognize it straight away. It's difficult because the lionesses that I've seen with the manes in Botswana have proper manes. It's not like a young male. They've got really big, massive manes that are just like what you'd see on the Birmingham boys. So it's an interesting thing, and I don't know if we would ever see it here. Who knows? Maybe it's possible. These things can happen. I have seen impala females with horns. We've seen warthog females with the extra set of warts. So these anomalies do happen from time to time, and maybe one day we will see it within the Kruger system. But I honestly have never heard of it in the Kruger system, nor have I ever seen it. It sounds like Tumba has disappeared from Tundams. Nobody can find him now that they're actually down in that area. And then it sounds like Inkanyeni and Tundi have both got kills on Torchwood. Two of them on that side. Maybe Tundi went and fetched Tumba and took him back, although people have been with her the whole morning and she hasn't come towards Tundams. So interesting though that he's ended up at Tundams, and I would imagine that this leopard here at Gallagher must then be Hosanna if it's a young male that's moving around. So it's interesting that Tumba is the one that's still around Tundams, and that it's not Hosanna lying that side. Of course, it's just a report, so we don't know either one positive ID, so it could be the other way around and people have just got a bit confused. But it will be interesting to see who has ended up staying around Tundams and who's the one that's been pushed off and has had to move somewhere else. Right, lions, I think that we probably might move on and leave them to their sleep, because they really are very sedate now. Ooh. This is a tough one. Mama Perks, you want to know which one is cuter, or which one I think is cuter, lion or leopard cubs? Tough. I think this is, and this probably goes against everything that I normally talk about in terms of leopards being my favorite, but I honestly think that a lion cub is generally a little cuter. And I'll say the reason why I say this is that I find that leopard cubs tend to be very slender and very thin, and their kind of heads look a little bit big, ears are a bit big, paws are a bit big, whereas lion cubs are just in proportion and seem to be fluffy and quite cute. And the thing about lion cubs is that they generally make lots of noise because there's more than one of them, and I love that about them, that they're quite vocal and quite playful because there's generally more than one. You know, with leopards it's often just the one on its own or just the two, and they tend to be a lot shyer and less interactive and less sort of visible when at the same age as what these lion cubs are. But they're both equally cute, I suppose, and baby leopards are incredibly special to see, and they really are an amazing thing. It also depends on the size, but you know, it's when the leopards get to that 3-4 month age, they tend to be a little bit skinnier and kind of everything looks a bit big for them at that size, and they're not quite as cute as the lion cubs. But prior to that, if they're the same age as these lion cubs here, they are incredibly cute. I actually have a photo of Tiani somewhere at the same age, so we can do a vote as to which one is cuter, and we'll do it on Safari Live. I just need to try and find it. But little lion cubs or little leopard cubs is difficult to say. I'm on the fence. What do you think, Seb? What's your thought? Because there is a leopard cub, so we can do... I'm sure there's some screenshots of the little lion cubs from this morning, and this is a leopard cub at a similar age to those lion cubs. Is it coming out or not really? It's going to be quite dark, but there we go. There is a little leopard cub at a similar age, so it's difficult to say. I mean, this is as cute as it gets, as well, with those beautiful blue eyes. I think that's one thing about leopard cubs that they have on lion cubs, is that their eye colors are so incredible as cubs. They're either these blue or greens or bright oranges, and they fade a little bit as they get older, but it's difficult to say. I mean, that's just as cute as any lion cub that I've seen. So I think all baby animals are cute, but I suppose leopards being my favorite, let's just take leopards then. We'll be on the leopard side of life when they're that age. So there we go. Is there little cubs coming? Because I see the female's put up her head again looking. No. We'd hear the leaf litter of the cubs moving. I think they passed out. They've had a big morning. They've been with the pride. They're tired. And I think everybody else is going to start sleeping now as well. Mom is obviously just concerned, so she looks around just to make sure that there's nobody intruding and nobody going towards that den. But I reckon that we're going to be in a situation where everybody's going to start sleeping now. And the fact that there's no movement down in the bottom there from the cubs means that they're not going to come up here, and I think the pride is going to rest. So let's carry on and go and explore this morning and go see what else we can see and what we can find. I think I heard some ellies not too far from us, and it would be really nice to spend some time with some elephants. And we'll go past Gallagher one more time, and maybe we get lucky with that leopard a little bit later. It'll be good if there is a leopard somewhere there, and even some ellies will be good. But while we leave this sighting and carry on, let's go back to Tayla in the Mara. Where's Tayla?
So we've gone and checked for the cheetah, and we basically reached essentially the end point of our signal range and the end point of our radio range, at which point unfortunately we had to just call it and come back. She's obviously moved further towards Tanzania, but that's okay. We'll go and double check where I left the serval last night, if I can remember. It gets a bit disorienting in the dark, but I've got a vague idea of roughly where we were. So we'll go back, we'll check there. She didn't cover an enormous distance last night. I think it is very much like looking for a needle in a haystack because of how... Oh, it was here. Oh, yes. I thought you meant she found the serval. I was about to say I was very impressed. No, I know roughly where I left her. Just not specifically which bush I left her by. But she didn't move much yesterday, so let's see if we get lucky. Although we are going to slip and slide. It poured with rain here last night. Tayla, there's an interesting question just while we're driving around. Obviously we're out a lot at night. Taylor's wondering if we ever come across poachers, and if so, what do we do if we were to do so? I've never come across a poacher while working for Safari Live, and bear in mind that every time we go out in the evenings we are with a ranger whose job is essentially to help us not get lost, basically, but also to keep an eye on what's going on and to keep an eye on the reserve. And it's almost an added advantage for them because they get to go out and do almost extra patrols, if you could call it that. So if we were to encounter a poacher, I would mark their position and drive away as quickly as possible. We're not trained in anti-poaching. Well, some of us are a little bit, but we're not really trained in anti-poaching. We're not carrying weapons of any description. It would be a very foolish idea to try and confront them. No, we wouldn't want to find ourselves involved in that situation. So we'd report it, move away as quickly as possible. It's stuff that I have done in the past where I have encountered poachers. It hasn't happened often, but once or twice. And generally speaking, they're trying to remain as hidden as possible. They don't want to draw attention to themselves. But it's not something that's ever happened to me while I've been working for Safari Live, and not something that's happened in the Mara. The most we encounter are people with cows on the other side of the river. Jeremy, yes, we are completely alone. Essentially, we are completely alone. There'll be one of us, one of the cameramen, in this case Manu, who is on camera, and then one of the rangers will be at the back of the vehicle keeping an eye on the comings and goings, and actually also keeping an eye on us, making sure we don't break any rules. Not that we would, but just to keep an eye on that. So that is something that we do. We do have that company, but we do have the entire Mara Triangle, Mara Reserve on the other side of the river completely to ourselves. The only time you'll see people is sometimes there's patrols backwards and forwards to the Ngirare border post or outpost on the Tanzania border, and at about 5 o'clock about 4:30 the balloon people start to stir and you start to see vehicles moving up and down. But otherwise it is completely silent out there at night. It's actually the most incredible feeling, knowing that there's no one close to us. At the moment, we have lots of companions on the reserve, and of course Tayla is out in the triangle as well. Let's jump back on with her.
Jump back on me, please don't. Patrick, welcome to sit in the back of the car. So we're driving along. David is doing a fine job of instructing me how to get towards the river. So that's where we're heading now, and we are going to meander along it and hopefully find all sorts of wonderful things. But as most of you know, we like to have these wonderful conversations while we're off here and we're driving, and I know that you like a little bit of insight into our life here and there. So today's conversation was, which celebrity most would you like to take on a safari? And I said I want to take Adele on a safari. I think it would be great. We'd do duets, you know, it would just be absolutely amazing. I'm joking, can you imagine? But I would like to take her on a safari, that'd be cool. Now, I can't believe how short the grass is here. It's very, very short. There really isn't much around for any of the animals. Look at it as we bump along this little bit bumpy road. And there's not much game around just here. So, because the grass is so short, I'm hoping that the animals would have pushed up against the river line where all those trees are. I presume that's where the river is. Because we know that the mixed feeders out here wouldn't like to eat this at all. It's terrible. Well, there'll be nice long bits of grass where we're growing in and amongst the trees around the river, as well as lovely lush leaves to browse on. Sorry, Alice, I didn't quite get that. The wind's a bit loud. No. A question from Jeff about whether there being apes or gorillas here in the Mara. Well, we typically have I think, and now I'm going to try and say this word, and I'm probably going to forget how to say it. The Cercopithecine, if I'm not mistaken. So it's the old world monkeys. So things like vervet monkeys, baboons. That's what we get here. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that chimpanzees and gorillas are in fact related, or in that same group. So we get the. David, you have to help me and remind me. What is the other monkey species up here? The naughty ones. Is it a sykes? Eh? Okay, so they're the sykes. So the sykes, and I believe you get vervet monkeys too. I haven't seen any yet. I've just seen the olive baboons running around. Right here, right. We'll go right here. That looks like where balloons maybe take off. It's very clear and open. But yes, so you can see very quiet. Lots of hippo footprints though, going back towards the river. So they would have had to have traveled very, very far distances to find suitable grazing. They may have had to have even crossed this other little river line that's just to the west of us and actually head back towards the shore, right beyond those trees. You might not even be able to see it, and head back towards the escarpment where the grass is a little bit on the longer side. So there we go, got some hippos that are doing walks. Look, there's a hippo trail. I'm going to go back for you, David, because it's quite cool. So there's the hippos that have been walking. You can see that there are a couple of fresh patches. The sort of shiny spots are where the hippos have recently just pressed into the mud. So I think it's quite funny that you all think it would be entertaining to have Adele on the safari. Can you imagine? And then you said a duet especially. I would just sing so softly. I'd probably just lip sync if Adele was in my presence. I'd be too embarrassed. Although we'll see, maybe David could drop her a beat and she could throw out a little rap, you know. Who knows? Anyways, we're going to keep heading towards the river road, and hopefully there's going to be a leopard climbing down a tree, maybe a rhinoceros. We're going to go back across. I think we're going to Tristan, if I'm not mistaken, or I may have heard incorrectly.
Well, don't worry, Tayla. It was only going to be a girl or a boy. At the end of the day, it would have been Jamie or myself. So we're back at Galago Pan. I've just spoken to the guy that saw this leopard. He said it was moving from where he is now to this general direction.
Wait.
We've got a branch. Got to be careful. Otherwise, we're going to break our antenna, and then I'm going to be in trouble. So let's not do that. We good?
Yep.
All right, it's good. Is up again, so we shouldn't lose reception. Now apparently this leopard was walking, so the chance of it still being right here in this vicinity is pretty slim, which I'm hoping with the heat, much like the lions, it's decided to lay down somewhere here. But it was walking in this general area. Nothing in there. Let's see, if we go around this side, maybe we'll find something. It must be one or the other, either Hosanna or Tumba. Like I said to Seb, it's difficult because the leopard that was seen at Twin Dams, nobody could see exactly who it was, and then when the guys got there, it disappeared. There was lots of baboons, and so it disappeared out of the way, and nobody could see it anymore. So difficult to know exactly who's who at this stage, but the guy said it was walking in this direction, so you can see there's lots of little hidey holes for a leopard here. And if it's somebody like Hosana or Tamba, neither one of them are particularly scared of the cars, so we should be okay to find it if it is sleeping. If it carried on moving, then well, we've got a bit of a problem, because then it's going to be quite tough. You're gonna have to go down again, I think, Seb. Okay, we're alright, so we're going to go on Seb's judgment.
Maybe not that one.
So Rick, sorry, I didn't hear the question very well. Megan, if you can just repeat that for me.
Okay.
Rick, so you're asking if we're allowed to cut branches or trees from the road to make it easier for us. Rick, we are allowed to cut branches from the road, not from inside the bush like this. So we cut the branches from the road if they're in the way, because lots of vehicles go up and down. So here's his tracks right here from earlier when he walked in this general direction. So I'm going to try and show them to you. And it is a young male. It's a small track. It's not one of the big boys. So there it is over there. You can see it just in the sand. If you look where the boot print is, where Tax was tracking, they're coming along like this. There they are. So that's them over there. That's the leopard tracks that we are looking for. But these are the tracks that Tax was tracking before they saw this leopard going towards Gallagher, and then seems to have come back this way. And I don't see any tracks coming the opposite way yet. So somewhere here, where are you? There's a Nyala over there, which is chilling and not taking too much notice of us. I'm going to try and find a way through all of this and try and see where I can find this leopard. Because there's Gallagher, so it was walking in this general direction. Must be here somewhere. Giving us the slip, this leopard. It's all over the place. I wonder if it doesn't have a kill here somewhere, that it's going back and forth like this. The Nyala seems fairly chilled. It's not too concerned about me moving around here. What's that over there? Is that it there under the deck there? You see under the deck there, Seb? Something underneath there. No, it's just some rocks. I thought it might have been a leopard sitting under the deck. I know Kruger used to go into these places, and many of the leopards like deck areas. It's nice and shady underneath there, so there's nothing that is actually in that general vicinity. So sorry about that, Seb, my fault. But the problem with here is that we could be 5 meters from this leopard, and if it's in one of these tamburti thickets or on one of these banks up at the top here under a quarry, it's going to be so difficult to see it. Where else can I check? I'm just trying to think where else is a good place to go. And definitely won't have gone far, that's for sure. There's lots and lots of impalas around Gallagher Pan, so if this leopard is here, it will have seen all of those impalas and will be watching them. No. Come on, leopard, come out wherever you are. Like I said, let's see. It's always worth checking. So Seb said he spotted something walking. Back further?
Basically at 1 o'clock from you. So
okay. Let's go up and check. It's going to be easier. It's Nyala or Impala. Okay, no worries, Seb. Always worth checking. That's the thing out here, is double check and triple check, because sometimes you just dismiss things and it's actually exactly what you're looking for. So it's worth checking like that. Just looking in all the shady spots, because it must be in a shady area. It's hot now. In fact, it's almost time to get rid of the jersey. I'm starting to get quite warm, so it must be under a shady bush somewhere here. Under one of these trees is a leopard, Seb. It's just a matter of finding said leopard. But we're going to keep looking, and while we do that, I'm going to get rid of my jersey, and let's go across to Jamie, who I think still has her jersey in the Mara.
I really miss tracking. It's something that we don't do much of here all that often. It's a bit difficult when the roads are far apart and muddy and we can't get out of the car. However, there are other compensations, such as this herd of, I would say there's a good 1,000 zebra around me in it's quite a small radius, about a half-mile radius. They all came wandering through last night while we were sitting with that serval. And we know that this is the territory of that kinky-tailed lioness. And of course, those 2 young boys that we saw involved in a fight as well, weeks ago, male lions. So there's always the possibility of encountering them. But it's nice to also just sit and enjoy a number of stripes wandering through. There might not be any wildebeest, but there's still, I would say there's 100,000 zebra in the Mara Triangle at the moment, possibly even more. And they are around. There's also a couple of vultures that were sitting up in the trees. I wonder if they know something I don't. Adele, I hear that Tayla would really like to take you on safari. Adele, you want to know whether or not I'd say that the lion hunts are more successful in the Mara. Yes, provided that the migration or that the herds are around those lions. So when that does happen, their hunting success rate is astronomical. I mean, you must have seen it, how they grab one after another after another. Once the migration and the herds have moved on, then I think that there's much of a muchness in terms of the success rate of the lions in South Africa, the Nkuhumas, for example, and the lions that we see. In fact, it might even be slightly harder for the lions in the Mara when the herds have gone. There's plenty of food available, but stalking is difficult. There's more cover in South Africa, whereas out here, once this grass is gone, it becomes a lot more difficult for the lions to sneak up close to the animals that they're hunting. So I guess it balances out in a way. But during the migration, absolutely. It is unbelievably simple for the lions. They can't actually get it wrong. They do sometimes, but when there's 100,000 wildebeest around them, galloping around, it is child's play. It's like shooting fish in a bucket, so to speak. While we've been skidding along in the mud, Manu and I have been talking about which celebrity we'd like to take on safari. I'm leaning towards a comedian. So is Manu. Manu says Kevin Hart. I was thinking Stephen Fry maybe, although I don't know, maybe somebody who hasn't, because of course Stephen Fry has experienced quite a bit of the African wilderness. Maybe somebody who hasn't. I'm going to think about it some more. I think the potential for hilarity would be incredible. I mean, I know we've got James and we've got Tayla who keep us laughing constantly. But imagine if we could have a special episode narrated by, I don't know, Stephen Fry or one of the... James Corden, maybe. I think it'd be hilarious. Oh, it's a bit slippery. Sorry, Alice, I missed a little bit of that. Comms are breaking up a little. Oh. Zebra squabble. Well, of course you stopped squabbling, as I stopped to show the viewers. I actually saw such a vicious zebra fight the other day. Kicking, biting. Alice, can we just test our comms? Oh, there we go. I've got you back. These zebra have managed to do several river crossings, I imagine, completely unscathed. Tayla has found one that wasn't quite as lucky.
Now, unfortunately, it was not. You're probably wondering what on earth Jamie is talking about, but David will show you in a minute. We've got a crocodile. We're at one of the crossings near the Mara River, on the Mara River, and you can see that there are some black and white stripes underneath its head. Now, it's not an entire zebra, it's just part of a zebra. Oh, it's got it in its mouth. So David and I were trying to figure out at the angle that we were at, it looked like I presume it's quite big, or maybe it could be a she too, was trying to figure out exactly what it was doing. Oh my goodness, and that is the head of the zebra too. So it's the head to the left and the rest of the neck to the right. Now I apologize, I shouldn't have to apologize for nature, but I know that this can be not the nicest thing to see, but it is just one of those things. It's wild, this nature. This crocodile needs to eat too, but it doesn't look like it's particularly fresh. It almost looks like the stripes have actually faded right off of the zebra, and I think that's just the skin and basically rotting. So maybe it stashed it somewhere around here and it's been feeding on it for, you know, quite some time. Very, very cool though to see something like that. I thought it was using it as a pillow, and as a turn, that was amazing. Now, Siberia Zumi, you also said a pillow. Well, that's what I thought. I literally thought it had its jaws shut and it just had its head rested up, because the initial angle that we had, that's what it looked like. But clearly it's not. It's obviously planning on eating it at some point, and now it looks like it's really just protecting it, because it's not chewing it, it's not trying to tear it apart. I don't think it would be able to swallow that whole though. That's massive. It might have to try and somehow get chunks of it off, and that's of course why they often leave their kills under rocks and things like that, so that they start to rot, the flesh becomes easier to remove, and then they'll eat it that way. But it is easy at the moment because of all the animals doing crossings and all the unfortunate zebra, wildebeest, topi, Thompson's gazelle, anyone that has tried to cross, if they've drowned or maybe they were killed by crocodiles. There's so many of them around, so it's easier for them to feed, being able, all of them being able to hold on to a part and sort of just doing the death roll and tearing chunks off that way. Very interesting though, but let's keep going. Let's see what other amazing things we've got along the river. This is a very pretty road. No cats just yet, so I'm just keeping an eye out around here, though you never know. It could be a leopard sitting in one of these very big trees, which I don't really know what they are. I wonder if some of them are Impala. Alice, did you start with a question? You didn't. I was worried. I thought Alice had lost me. She thought she'd lost me too. Now, Odie farming, you're wondering, oh, there's a little, don't fly, little birds. Oh, there's little bee eaters flying around. Yeah, there we go. One's just sat up onto the left-hand side of that shrub. Yeah, beautiful. Odie farming, you're wondering, where did the wildebeest go after the migration? Well, they go to the Serengeti to give birth. So after their long journey of traveling up and down looking for the greenest of green grass, they find the areas where they like to give birth, and that happens to be in the Serengeti in Tanzania. So not too far away from we are. We're actually not far from the Tanzania-Kenyan boundary at all, and often, I think that's where Brent had his leopard last night, was on that boundary somewhere down there, so that's quite exciting. So we can get to it quite easily. Now these are the smallest of the bee eaters, and for me they're the most entertaining. There just seem to be two of them fluttering around, and normally you'll see big groups of them. We get them in the Sabi sand too, but you never know. It might be a new bird for you to add to your Kenyan list to do so. And they're very happy. Listen to them. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. I think that they're singing beautiful songs because it got quite cold last night and we had a huge downpour and it rained for most of the night. It's actually why David and I weren't able to go out. We were supposed to go out at about 12 o'clock last night, but it had been bucketing down since about 8 o'clock and well, we can't really drive in the rain, so we didn't head out at that time. But let's carry on. Let's see. I'm going to squeeze through these bushes here now. Right, what else have we got here? That's the first time these have touched the side of my car since I've been here. With all the wide open spaces, that's the narrowest thing I've been through. Those little bee eaters are so pretty. They're all around here. Who have we got down here now? Let's look at the next point. Find the best spot. It's fairly quiet here. 1 or 2 hippos. Oh no, there's a huge pod on the corner there. Never mind, there's lots of hippos around here. I take that back. Not a crocodile in sight though. They obviously don't like this area. But there they are, just resting after when we saw today how far they had to walk down the pathways onto the open grasslands where the grass is tall and then back again. So I'm sure that they will rest up. Actually surprised we haven't seen any out in the open because it's a little bit overcast, a little bit chilly today. And that sand on the banks would probably be nice and warm. I think if I was a hippo, I'd be just resting up on the side of a bank. But there's also a bit of wind, so maybe they'll get a chill if they're out in the open. And down in the water, lower down like that, they might be quite sheltered. But who knows? I'm not going to go and test it, however. I'm not brave enough to go and swim with hippos. And I'll remind all the crocodiles and things that are here too. Where's the old road? Oh wow, there is an old road. Well spotted, David. I didn't even notice that, to be honest. Was not paying attention. Very cool. Now it's completely washed away. You wouldn't want to go up there. Okay. Ooh. Now, Skirt, you're wondering if, seeing as though we're down by the river, if there's any chance for a Pell's fishing owl. I'm not sure. I haven't actually heard of many people saying that they've been seeing ones recently. I don't know if they even occur up here. In fact, I'm sure they would, though. It's perfect habitat for them, so I couldn't see why they wouldn't be up here. So that's what we're looking for. We'd be looking for something like a Pell's fishing owl, which I have not seen before. I tried desperately when I was up in northern Limpopo, having a look along the Limpopo River for one, but I unfortunately was not successful. But that's okay. We'll get it eventually. But we'll keep searching. Tristan has now moved on from the lions, and it seems as though he's searching for, I presume, Tamba and Osana after their little squabble last night.
We are searching for them, but no luck yet. Around Gallego there's just tracks everywhere, and there's our Nyala friends. There goes a duiker. So there's lots of different antelope here, but no alarm calls. Everybody looks a little edgy around the area, but we can't find him. And I got off the vehicle to look, and there's tracks in every direction. You can actually see there's more tracks here going that way, so they're just on the edge of the road here. So he's been all over the place, this leopard, and it's probably lying right here looking at me, but it's difficult to actually find. It's like, for some reason it's somewhere under one of these bushes in the shade, and I just can't seem to walk in that direction, which is okay. We've had a wonderful morning anyway, so if we don't find this leopard, it's not the worst thing in the world. But that's where the tracks go. But those look like slightly bigger tracks than the tracks we're following, although it is soft sand here, so maybe that's why. Maybe it'll be my mission for the day, is just to walk around here during the day today until I find this leopard. I'm sure it is here. It can't have gone far. It's got to be in this general area. Hopefully at some point it comes to a place where we can actually see it. Also, there are guests staying at Gallego, so if it does go for a drink during the day today, they will notice it and they will be able to see it as well. So at least there is options all round for finding this leopard. It's amazing how they can hide in plain sight. And what's even more interesting is that we were driving there, Tuxton was walking there with his tracker, and between the two of us we managed to drive past and walk past that leopard 3 times between the two of us. And then the guy that was there said he saw us walking and driving, and then he saw the leopard 10 minutes later walking right where we were. So it just shows you how you can go right past them without even a semblance of an idea that they're even there. Lots of impalas though at Gallego Pan. I'll show you from here. If you look across the way, there they're all sitting. So our leopard might be keeping an eye on them and watching what's going on, and generally just checking the comings and goings of the impala herd that have come down to drink. You can see they're a little bit kind of wary. Their heads are up. They're not just down feeding. They're looking around, just making sure. I'm sure with the wind that's blowing, a bit of scent is also around that's making them a little nervous. Okay, impalas, well, you shout if you hear anything, and we'll come rushing over if you do. which is actually quite true. They do shout around. But Jamie, I believe, has got a bird that I would love to see more of here. We saw one at Arathusa Airstrip a while ago, but hopefully we'll see them again. But let's go across to her and see what it is.
We've got something beautiful to show you. We might not have found any lions in this area, but we have found the heaviest flying bird in the form of a Kori bustard, in the same family as the black-bellied bustard that we saw earlier, and absolutely massive. I know it's really hard for you to get a sense of scale through the eyes of the camera, but that bird probably would stand, I mean, it's over 1 meter tall, it's over 3 feet tall. Its head would probably come up to, I would say, at least my hips, possibly even more. It really is a particularly large bird, and they're absolutely gorgeous. This one's a male. You can see it's got a slightly more prominent crest, and then some white, much more prominent white there on the shoulder, just at the base of the wing. Stalking with long legs through the grass. They can fly, obviously, as I said, the heaviest flying bird. And actually, I mean, you can hear them when they take off. Thump, thump, thump. I didn't do it. You would like to know if this bird does a fancy dance in order to attract mates. Hold on, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer, which might be a bit difficult. Let's see. It does do a display. It does raise its crest. And what it does do, and I'm going to play you the call in a moment, is it's got this deep, booming call. Let me get... Oh, there's a road right there. How very convenient. There might not be signal, but let's take a chance. You're holding on, Manu, because we're going to slide. Oh, it's not too bad. Whee! Woo! Couldn't have turned even if I wanted to. Now, so you wanted to know if the Kori bustard is a cousin to the secretary bird. Let's go back before it carries on, because I don't think I've got signal in that dip. It is not. It's not a bird of prey at all, although it does actually prey on things like insects as it moves through the grass. However, it doesn't qualify as a raptor. So whilst it does eat insects and things like that, it doesn't actually qualify as a bird of prey. So a secretary bird is entirely in its own family, distinct but related to things like hawks, accipiters, hawks, vultures, those sorts of birds. Whereas a Kori bustard is in the bustard family. And what I'm going to do while you watch it is I'm going to play its call for you, if this would work. Play. Why won't you play? What is it with gremlins today? Oh, it says no calls available. Wait, I'll find it on the other app. Hold on a moment. Sounds like a growling leopard. Or a growling lion. So it will also eat things like lizards and snakes, but I would say that its main diet would be insects, and then seeds if it can find them as well. I can't stop this bird sound, so while I figure out how to make it stop, let's go across to an antelope that makes a very similar sound.
Jamie. Oh, that was so funny. Sorry, I've got the giggles. So I have to tell you this amazing story. I can't even get my words out because it was really cool. We're obviously looking at a beautiful herd of Impala, which is surprisingly something we don't come across too often. But David, I see there are little ones here. Look there, those two that are looking back at us. So I'll tell you while you look at them because they're so sweet. There's very young Impala lambs, but they're probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks old already. We've just seen the teeniest, tiniest little Impala lamb I've ever seen. It was so precious. It was still wobbly on the legs, and Mom had it tucked away in a thicket. So as you know, it's normally the migration has been very intense in terms of death and destruction and carnage. Lions, you know, snapping up crocodiles snapping up all sorts of mammals, crocodiles taking down mainly wildebeest and zebra, and it's been quite hectic. It's definitely an overwhelming experience, and I'm sure it has been for all of you who are watching. So now we're going to go into a new life, and I think that is very sweet to be able to see all the ones that have made it and survived it. How incredible that actually is. Imagine the stories that their mothers tell their youngsters. That's very cute though. And the Impala rams, I still can't get over how big they are. They look like Harley Davidsons, because their horns are so long and come so far back, like sort of handlebars. And Impala's now phlegm and grimacing. Obviously he's just testing the scent. Maybe a female urinated there. But he is massive, and one day that little one will grow to be just as large as that big ram at the back. Alice, are you still here? I'm just checking. Oh, perfect, you are. Now, Sabiri Zumi, you're wondering if the rutting dates are different up here with the Impala than the Impala down in South Africa? I'm just trying to think. Maybe, although I can't imagine why, because we can see Impalas giving birth now as well in South Africa. We definitely get a couple that are early. I'm trying to, does anyone remember who, I know it was Brent. Brent saw the first Impala lamb last year. Do you remember when it was? If you do, you can hashtag Safari Live. That would just help us out here. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember reading about it. Maybe Jamie knows. Actually, Jamie's been on the Mara for a lot longer, so I'm going to swing that question onto her, and hopefully she'll be able to give you a little bit more insight. I'll have to do some reading up on if the times are exactly the same. Anyways, we're going to keep heading along. We want to explore and see where this road takes us. Perhaps it takes us to a predator of sorts. I'm going to send you back across to Jamie, who's also having a lovely morning in the overcast weather.
Lovely morning indeed, and we just had to share this very sweet scene with you, although unfortunately this Thompson's gazelle's now just got a fright. She was suckling the little one. Look at it go! Such a turn of speed for such a tiny little antelope. Wait, Mum, wait for me. Oh, you just left your baby behind completely. Slow down. What is everybody running from? Why are the ostriches running? What is going on? Everybody's running. The ostriches are running, the Thompson's gazelles are running. I think the ostriches are causing it. They're causing chaos. They look like they're chasing everybody else around. The zebra's just standing there watching them. I think the ostriches are responsible for the loss of what was quite a sweet, tender scene. The ostriches are having a silly five. The male racing after the females. They were all sitting so sweetly a moment ago. I thought they were just going to stay that way. Where's everybody going? What's happening? I don't know why that looks so comic. I've seen ostriches do this many times before. The females in particular just seem to cause trouble with each other, and then they all start running in circles, and the male gets involved, and he starts to try and collect them back up again, and then they all go racing off. Bounding along with those long legs. We seem to be having a big bird day. Big bird day. Here we go. So what was that all about? I'm going to do a little dance now, in proper Fantasia style. That one looks like she just got blown away in the wind. She couldn't fold her wings up. Patty, yes, while our ostriches do their dance in the wind, yes, they do. Cheetah in particular are well adapted to catching ostriches. I've seen it before, and it's something that I think would be extraordinary to be able to show you. So yes, cheetah do hunt ostriches. They're actually really the only ones that are fast enough to do so. Lions can, but they very seldom do. They'd rather invest their time and energy in something like a zebra. But an ostrich kill for a cheetah is a proper boon. It really is. There's plenty of meat on them. It's quite a thing to watch a cheetah actually manage to trip an ostrich up and to get its head down. Once its head's down, of course, then it's game over. But they're not without their own weapons. You can see as they walk the massive toe on the end of their foot. And that essentially is equipped with a very powerful talon that could, if it was correctly done, it could actually split the cheetah open and kill it. You don't want to mess with ostriches. I've had some scary encounters with ostriches as a child. Tame ostriches chasing me around. They're scary. Mrs. Scott girl, I don't know if that's any reference to our Scott, but Mrs. Scott girl, you want to know if ostriches mate for life? No, not necessarily. They are, once the male has collected and mated with females, what you'll often find is he will spend a lot of time, he will actually help the female with raising the chicks, but they are not necessarily, they won't necessarily mate for life. It's a warthog. No, they won't. I thought maybe there was a reason for the ostrich's craziness. They won't mate for life. Sometimes in a situation where the ostriches don't have any other option, they'll stay together for a number of years. They're peculiar birds. We were talking about Impala rutting. The Impala rut all year round here. That's why they're so big. So I've seen Impala mating here at all times, well, as long as I've been here, from June until now in September. There are babies of different ages. If you look at them, there's babies of all ages scattered together. And that, I think, is essentially why they are so much larger, because instead of rutting at one time of year where ours get that heightened boost of testosterone, they're sort of constantly in this state of aggravation, trying to mate with the females. I'm trying to figure out where the road is meant to be. I think it's here. So you might find that there is a peak season. There is a peak season in terms of when the most Impala lambs are born, but the females don't have a synchronized estrus cycle. There's no synchronized rutting season as there is in South Africa, which I guess kind of makes sense when you think about it. A lot of the theories behind the way that the hormonal process works with Impala is that it's controlled by the length of the day. Whereas here, the days don't change. It is constant all the time. So you could link it up in that sense. I'm going to go in search of, well, actually anything. Let's go back to Tristan, who has a more specific cat in mind.
I do have a specific cat in mind, although this cat doesn't really want to be found, so I'm going to start meandering my way out of here. There's literally antelopes everywhere. I know somebody said they saw a cat from the dam can. We went and checked, found a track there, but they all point towards the same direction, which is Gallagher Camp. And the guys, I stopped one of the ladies and asked her, and she said to me that it's in Gallagher Camp itself, so there's really not much I can do if it is inside there. I personally think that it's moved since then and is no longer inside the camp, but if she tells me it's in the camp and it is in the camp, there's very little more that I can do than what I've done now. So we're just meandering along towards Tayla access side in case this leopard decided to move in that direction and go towards Vuyatela access. It might have, you never know, these leopards do move around quite a bit, so just slowly driving along, looking in all the shady nooks and crannies, and we're not leaving too many stones unturned as we search around here. Our opportunity was this morning, but like I was saying to Seb, I far rather would have spent time with those lion cubs while we had the chance than to have tried here and failed, or to have wasted a whole morning and not seen anything. That's why we went towards the lion and cubs. I think if we had stayed here, we would have had this leopard eventually. It just would have been a matter of time. The guys are talking a lot on the radio today. There's lots happening, like I say, and it sounds like Tandi and Nkanyeni both on kills on Torchwood. It sounds like the Styx Pride are down in the east as well, so it's been a busy morning in that regard. I don't know what happened to the other leopard at Twin Dams. Tax said he went there 5 minutes after somebody left it and gone. So I wonder if it wasn't chased. So Jake, you're wondering if we speak a different language on the radios. We do. We sometimes speak, I mean, I mostly speak English on the radio, but every now and then we will speak a little bit of Fanagalo, which is basically a combination of languages. So it's a combination of Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, Pedi, all of the different languages in South Africa, English, Afrikaans, and it's combined together, and we use the kind of colloquial names for the animals in this area. So like, let's say an ingwe, which is a leopard or something like that, and that we'll use those as ways to talk about it. It's an interesting thing because in most reserves they use the colloquial name for the animals, and there's two reasons for it. One is that they try and say it so that the people that are on the vehicles don't really know what's going on, and it means that it's more of a surprise, and that if there is something that they're very far away from, that they don't have to worry about explaining as to why they haven't gone in that direction. Because obviously people, when they hear lion or leopard or something like that on a radio, they want to go straight away, and it sometimes isn't possible because it's on the other side, or there's lots of vehicles that side, or whatever the case may be. So that's the one side of things. And then also it's just that in some of these reserves there's a lot of guys that don't have the best command of the English language, and especially with trackers, because the trackers, you know, they're not guides, they don't talk to the guests nearly as much, so it's just easier for them to know what's going on as well. So that's the reason why. In some of the other lodges that myself and James and Byron and Brent trained at, we were trained to speak English on the radios, and the reason for that is that you just don't have anything to hide from your guests, because if you know what you're doing and you can guide, you can always explain and allow for people to understand what's going on, and explain it in a way that people won't get upset that they're not seeing a lion that's 20 kilometers away when you're sitting with a leopard, or whatever the case may be. So we generally use English, myself and James and Brent, and Scott even is the same. But you know, sometimes you're talking to somebody and they're speaking the colloquial or Fanagalo to you, and you just kind of slip into it. Of course, I'm by no means fluent in it at all. It's not like James, who can completely converse with anybody around here in their tongue or in their language. It's really quite astonishing to hear James speaking. Brent's quite proficient. Scott is also very good, particularly in Swahili. So up in Kenya, Scott's Swahili is very good from him spending a lot of time up that side. But yeah, it's also, I suppose, a bit of a respect thing. Is if people make the effort to speak English to you, it's always good to make an effort to speak their language, I think. Well, that's how I feel about it anyway. But no tracks coming out into Vuyatela access, so this leopard has got to be somewhere still in Gallagher camp. Maybe when all the guests come back and there's a bit of movement around there, it will decide to come out and spend its day resting somewhere near Gallagher Pan, and we'll be able to find it there. But there's definitely no sign of it coming out onto Vuyatela access that I can see, and so that means somewhere still there. Lots of scrub air tracks though, bounding along. Now the problem with this side of the reserve, especially at this time of the day, so in the morning it's fine when it's cool, or late evening, it's okay. But the problem with this side now when it gets warm is that there's no water, so a lot of the animals that might have been here would have moved and tried to start getting closer towards water and trying to get themselves hydrated, especially on a hot day like today. So I would be surprised if we came across too much on this side. I think most of the stuff is on the eastern side at the moment, closer to Gowrie Dam, Twin Dams, Treehouse Dam, and then obviously Buffelshoek Dam, and then the north there's quite a few up that way in the central part. So I'd be surprised if we see too much out this side. Like I say, it's a little bit more dry and there's really not too much water available, but it's also a place that every now and then you can bump into shadow and cub, and so while we're kind of looking for spotty creatures, worth just checking around this side and seeing. In terms of birds of prey, I don't think we're going to see too many of those. I was just thinking about birds in my mind and what birds we could see, but now that it's warm they'll already be on the thermals flying after the night trying to look for food, so I don't think we'll see too many of them either. What tracks are these? Hyena tracks on my right, a couple impalas on the right hand side as well. Hello guys, you must be hot already, the sun is warm. But let's check, I want to check towards the power line side. I'm also quite intrigued. So apparently 25 and 77, I'm not sure I believe that. Do you believe that, Seb? It doesn't feel 25. Maybe with the wind chill.
Yeah, with the wind chill actually.
And I suppose that's in the shade. Yeah, maybe, actually. That's not too bad.
It's not as bad as yesterday.
It's not as bad as yesterday, no. Yesterday at this time was really quite something. But I'm super intrigued. Earlier I was talking about it, and I'm really intrigued to see how this lioness moved these cubs without us even knowing, because we haven't seen any footprints in this area that suggest she's taken cubs anywhere. Obviously when she moves cubs she can carry one, but the other two have got to walk a little bit, and there's been no tracks any of these sections. So she must have grown wings and flown them there, which is a very clever mother. But it just goes to show how they can move around without our attention and without us even knowing. It's really an amazing thing that these moms can do when they're trying to hide out and trying to keep a low profile. They really know how to do it effectively, and the fact that we haven't seen any tracks from here all the way to where we found them this morning means that she's obviously moved them in small increments and has done it very, very sneakily, which is wonderful. It's why they're still alive, is because she has done a good job at keeping them hidden and keeping too much attention going in and out of a den, because remember, hyenas will pick up scent and they'll follow scent, and if they find an area where they think there's a lioness going in and out, they might go and investigate, and obviously that could be dangerous to those cubs. So she's done superbly well to get them to a new den site without any attention being brought on them. Mr. Super Joe, a pride can get quite large, so you'll find that lion prides, depending on the area, can get big. There are lion prides within the Kruger Park system that often will hit 40 lions. I've heard of reports of lion prides going over 60, but it's just not sustainable for prides to be that large. At the end of the day, you've got a situation where they've got to feed themselves, and 60 lions means that they will eat a buffalo within probably, I would say, 2 hours, 3 hours, and that buffalo would be finished, and they probably then, even all of them, won't get enough food to eat. So it's a really difficult thing to have a pride that big, and that's why they split, is they can't afford to be that big, because they just can't actually satisfy the pride and get enough food to make the pride sort of last, and that's when you get the splits that are happening. So I remember up in the Lubombo Mountains there was the mountain pride for a while, which was 40, I think they finished up at like 41 at one point, and then they split into two different groups. Now with the Shish pride there is a lot of them too, also close to 40, but they also splitting into two different groups. So it's just that it's too much to actually sustain in a system like this. Maybe in a place where like the Mara, if lions could follow each other around, you might find a situation, I mean follow the wildebeest around, you might find that the pride would get massive, but they can't. So they have territories and they try and avoid them each other, and that means that they can't follow what goes on. I'm just trying to see, there's a disturbance in the sand here and I'm not 100% sure what it is, so I want to just quickly have an investigation. It was where a antelope was lying down, so that's okay. We're going to carry on. I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be linking to. It broke up, so it'll be a surprise, but it'll be blonde or brunette. Enjoy.
The ostriches, I think that was probably quite a good reason to have gone galloping off. Sitting on the termite mound is a young male lion, and about to walk in front of him is the remaining 2 zebra. Now, it's safe to say that they've seen him. He's not hunting them, but look at that. Isn't that spectacular? Watching the progress as they go wandering through. Now, here's a question for all of you. Is that one of our young boys? One of the 2 young boys. Here comes another Zebby. Quick, keep up. You don't want to be a slacker here. Okay. That's all the zebra gone. Let's go and have a look at this lion. Who are you? Do we know you? Is it the... We're very, very close to where Manu filmed that lion fight between the 2 young boys and the 2 older males of this area. And the 2 young boys, we kind of... Oh, there's more zebra coming. We kind of got to know over a short period of time. We spent a bit of time, James spent a bit of time with them, I spent a bit of time with them, quite a lot of time with them actually. In fact, one entire night of terror with them and a herd of wildebeest. But there should be 2, not 1, and I'm very impressed with their courage to have returned back to the place where they nearly got a hiding. I mean, it was not a serious fight because the young males are too young. They're submissive. Well, they were submissive to the older males, and they ran away as quickly as they could. Hello, boy. No, this looks older. This definitely looks older. I'm just moving out from between him and the zebra. I don't want to get in his way. He's beautiful. Okay. Just give him a bit of space. He's watching us cautiously. Rishi, you want to know why some prides have no male lions? No pride technically actually has no male lions. So essentially, the idea of the Lion King has given us this impression that a lion pride consists of females and males, or at least one dominant male or more. It's not quite how it works, actually. Essentially, the males have a territory that encompasses the territories of several different females. Sometimes they spend time with the one particular pride. Sometimes they leave them and they go off on patrol and go and visit another pride. Depends if there's females in estrus, if there's a kill, or anything along those lines. So the males don't actually qualify as part of the pride. One single male can be dominant over an area, but most likely he will rule over an area with coalition members. So their male lions are in coalitions, technically, not really prides. They do, of course, associate with prides. This doesn't look like one of the 2 young males. He's quite dark. I wish I had my camera. I left it in the other car, didn't I? In the rush of the swap. Because I've got a picture of the older young male, and I could easily compare whisker spots. Joe, that he is. He's far too blonde and far too young to be Scar. You can take lots of screenshots of his whisker spots. That's, of course, how we'll be able to confirm who he is. Manu, can we get any closer to that? If we can, there we go. An opportunity to take a screenshot of his whiskers and his ears at the same time. Now, my boy, if you could just turn your head. If you could look to the left. Thank you. Is it too much to ask him to look to the right? That was just too well timed. That's probably not going to work next time. But take a screenshot, share them on #SafariLive on Twitter. There are lots of people in the Masai Mara who keep very good track of the various lions. And whilst we are still learning, there will be someone out there who's familiar with this young male. I don't think, but I'm not 100% certain, but I don't think it's one of the 2 young boys that I got to know. He's very full. He is properly full-bellied. So where have you come from, mister? And where are the ladies? Would you be able to point them out? Yes, no? Why are you all alone? Poor boy. Are there just no ladies in the vicinity? Oh well, we'll have to go across to Tayla, who's found some.
We've got some ladies, and I think that they are the ladies of the Pride. It's a long word, that one. No, you don't have to add as many of those. Oh, what have I seen overhead? Oh, okay, just got distracted. Some elephants. But yes, we've got the lions, and the reason why I think it is the Olololo Pride is because there were 3 lionesses and 4 rather young cubs, and it seems as though they had killed a zebra, which is just below the tree. So there's another one. Who have we got there? The lioness? Oh, great shot, David. Caught in the act. just trying to have a bit of privacy, and then here we are prying into her life. It's just amazing how animals, they really just go about their thing and tolerate us all the time. But they were around here. They might move to a bit of shade, because I think when the sun breaks through these clouds, it's actually going to get quite hot. It has warmed up quite a bit. Must have killed that last night, so that's very good. But we're exceptionally far away from them. We must be almost 200, maybe even further, 250 meters away from them. So they're just little specks in the grass, and they're off. They look like they're going to go maybe have a rest under a shady tree. And this is a very nice spot up here. I actually really like it. Up in the, we're not quite in the eastern corner. We're sort of mid-eastern corner, and with all these trees around, a good area for rhino. We see the buffalo around here lots. It's nice for the lions too. If it does get too hot, they can just go and duck under some trees and have a bit of a rest, because out in the open there aren't too many that would cast a decent shadow. Even there where they're sitting, where there's one lioness, that's really not going to do her much good. With their vultures waiting to come down and devour that carcass, so maybe she's protecting it. Although I've noticed out here, though, it's not uncommon for these lions to just eat a little bit and then completely move off, and if the scavengers come through and pick it clean. But maybe now that the big herds of animals are moving away, they're going to have to start holding on to their prey for a little bit longer. Now, Rita, you're wondering, what is it always with lions and sitting on termite mounds? You see lots of animals use termite mounds. Lions, in particular, cheetahs, I think, are the best when it comes to displaying this behavior. We see kudu doing it in the Sabi sand, and we often see mongoose and warthogs. Lots of different animals use them, and it's really to be used as a vantage point so they can see around them. Because remember, out here in particular, it's quite nice. It's open, so if you can just get above the level of the grass, it's fine. In South Africa, it's a bit more difficult, and I would think that the herbivores that utilize termite mounds to scan their surroundings definitely benefit from it, because it's so dense and so thick in the Sabi sand, especially when the buffalo haven't come through and grazed the grass short. You don't only have all the trees, all the bush willows, all the silver cluster leaves, but you have that long grass too. But I don't know how long we'll stay here. They're very far away. They've obviously got their bellies nice and full now, which is exciting. The little cubs have had a good feed. Maybe the lioness, whose cubs they are, will lay down and suckle them for a little bit. But something, if we get desperate this afternoon, we could totally come this way. Now, we are going to be going across the river today, David and I, which is nice. We probably start off with trying to find the big herds of wildebeest, which are around Kikarok. There's a couple of 100,000, which is nice. Maybe there'll be some lions about there, and then we'll try and during the day we'll try and find the cheetah brothers, because I'd love to see them. So that's going to be our plan for the afternoon. So we might not see you in the afternoon show, but if we do catch anything, remember the Facebook lives, and we're going to send you back across to Tristan with not too much of the show just left, only a few minutes. And for the first time in history, he has struck out of luck and not finding any leopards.
Well, Tayla, that's fine. I'll take our luck in that we had lion cubs instead. So I think we would have had a leopard had we concentrated on that only, but it's okay. Either way, it doesn't matter. If you can't win them all and you can't have leopards every day, it would get a lot more boring. Not boring, I suppose, but it would take away from the magic of finding them and spending time with them and how special it is to see them. So I'm quite happy with the fact that we have a hiatus from leopard every now and then, and then we find some other sort of animal to look at, and the lion cubs this morning were absolutely perfect. But I don't think have we done a drive without a cat since I've been back with you, Seb?
I think we did one on Monday.
We did a one drive. The one morning it was, yes. Otherwise we've been so fortunate. We've had cats crawling out of everywhere on Djuma in the last little bit. And in fact, I remember there was one afternoon where we had cats and, well, we had a leopard, Tingana, and there was 3 other cat sightings running, and we didn't get to any of them because we were so busy with Tingana. So it really has been wonderful on Djuma the last few days. We've been super fortunate, and of course these periods don't always last, and there are going to be times where it's going to get very quiet at Djuma again, but we'll take it as it comes for now. But you can see I've decided that we're going to, in our search for leopards and maybe be as stealthy as them, we've decorated Wendy to try and find them. There's a few little branches on the dashboard. There's one that sticks off on the left there to hide the little bit of the high lift jack. So that's now our camouflage for Wendy. So hopefully this afternoon this is what's going to allow us to find a leopard. You can see there's a little branch on the edge there. That's decorating the bonnet area. You've got to have foliage around you. It's one of the key things when camouflaging is to have a leaf or two on the bonnet, a branch or two. So these are all things that we are going to use later, and hopefully will allow us to be able to blend in enough that our leopard will feel comfortable to come out. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, that's all going to be cleaned off because I need to clean it all off and make sure that everything is in a good state for this afternoon. We can't have a dirty car. Tayla will kill me if we have a dirty car, so have to make sure that they clean and keep up the grooming standard, as they call it. Right, well, it is a beautiful day at Djuma. I think we're going to have a wonderful afternoon today. I think there's going to be lots of things out this afternoon. We know that Tumba is around. We know there's another male leopard here. There's the lions with the cubs. So it should be an epic afternoon on Djuma. But let's go back to Jamie and her male lion to close up the show.
Well, speaking of drives without animals, I thought for 1 minute that we actually weren't going to see a lion this morning. In the Mara, that would be practically unheard of for us not to be able to find at least one to finish off our sunrise safari. But Tristan definitely can't complain about leopard luck. He has had some truly spectacular sightings. He seems to be the leopard man of Djuma. The weather is thoroughly foul. It is howling. It's quite chilly. Overcast, but all of those of course are good conditions for the sunset safari. Hopefully this gentleman doesn't move too far. I don't think he's going to. I think he's quite happy where he is. There's no reason for him to go off in search of shade. So I think we'll try and catch up with him, see if perhaps he gives us a hint as to where the rest of the lions of this area are. Lara Moore, you say that these Mara lions all seem to have mohawk manes. Is this unique? It's just that we've spent quite a lot of time with young Mara lions, young male Mara lions. A lot of the ones that we've spent time with have been around about that 2-3-year-old mark, and I love it. It's my favorite age for a male lion because they look like gangly teenagers with scraggly beards that they've been trying to grow in tufts as it sort of grows around their head in that mohawk. It's just the natural growth pattern. I have noticed that the males, the males in their prime here in the Mara are utterly spectacular. Not that the ones in South Africa aren't, but the big dark-maned males like the Notch boys, or the now remaining one Notch boy, Scarface, all of those male lions are utterly spectacular to look at. Very big, very bulky boys with big, dark, full manes. So this is not how he's going to stay for the rest of his life. He just has to get to the point where, well, he's a little bit happier. Let's take a quick look around us, get a lay of the land. We've got some topi, some elephant off on the right there. Actually, the pole might be in the way. Yep, the pole is in the way. Sorry, my fault. So we've got some topi over there. You can see it's cloudy, misty, but really we can't actually compete with the scenery. It's gorgeous. I don't know what this male lion has planned for the rest of his day, but I suspect there are other males around, so at some point they might come wandering through. I don't know. we'll wait and see, and we'll wait and find out. There's the ostriches. Oh, by the way, just quickly, the ostriches, have gone. No, there they are. That's the ostriches. So we've moved around to the other side. Where are they? There's the zebra. They're the ostriches. That's them over there. And there's the zebra. So there's plenty of food around for the lion. Obviously, he's already taken full advantage of it. And he's going to spend the rest of the day snoozing, which is what I think I might do as well. Right, on that note, it is almost a time for us to say our farewells and our thank yous. So a fantastic and big thank you to Manu, who's been doing amazing camera work. He really has. And of course to Alice in final control, Megan and Djuma, and Chantal was assisting you this morning, Alice? Is that correct? Yeah. So a big thank you to our Djuma team as well. Of course, shame. They've been hit hard by the gremlins that have hit us, so they've been doing a fantastic job. Most importantly, a big thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. We'll see you in a few short hours for the Sunset Safari. I hope you're all excited. May it be as spectacular as yesterday's.